What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Philly Frenzy Podcast. I'm your host, Matt. As always, I'm here with my buddy Rob. What is going on, Rob?
Not much, man. Enjoying a beautiful fall day here in our area of New Jersey. Ready to talk a little NFL. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff today. Some news around the NFL, covering the games. Looking forward at this weekend. Touch on our power rankings. So it's going to be a good episode of the podcast today. We thank everybody out there for listening.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a few things to start this off. If you're tuning into the stream, you're sitting here, you're going, "What the hell do these guys have on the screen right now?" All right, so I'm gonna give you a little inside scoop real quick. We got Project 26 coming out. This is getting worked on by my boy Kyle. It's gonna be an NFT. It's gonna be covering a lot of things. So I just wanted to real quick run this video, show you guys the video of the first card. That is the first card that's going to be hitting the open market. As you can see, they have a Discord giveaway at 100 members. If you want to get into the Discord, you want to know when everything's going to be dropping, hit me up on Twitter at WhiteShack, and I will get you a Discord invite so you could be on top of everything once the stuff is dropping. I know he told me not to say anything on the podcast, but I decided that I was going to shout out what he is doing. Also, on top of that, if you enjoy what you were listening to or you enjoy what you've seen in the past, go ahead and hit that like, the subscribe, put the noties on our YouTube channel. Follow myself on Twitter at WhiteDaddyShack. Follow Rob on Twitter at RobDanka. Or if you're on Facebook, go ahead and type in Philly Frenzy Podcast in the search bar and go ahead and hit that like button. Keep in tune with us at all times. So let's get into the episode today. Today we're going to be hitting on a lot of NFL stuff. We got a big injury coming down for a big team. We got a big matchup tonight with a lot of inactives on one side. And then we got Sunday's games. So jumping into it, let's talk J.J. Watt and everything that's going on with J.J. here, Rob.
First of all, I mean, what an Iron Man of an athlete. It's come out today via Adam Schefter that this man finished the game last week with 4 injuries in his shoulder. That's incredible that he's even tough enough to do that. I mean, I've torn muscles before. I've had shoulder injuries before. They're no joke. It hurts. That's one tough dude to finish that game. He's always been a heck of a player and a heck of a, just person off the field. So it's always a big blow to the NFL when a guy like that goes out. I think it's a big blow to Arizona. I mean, he's been playing really well this year. He's not putting up the flashy numbers. He's not lighting up the stat sheet in sacks, but he has a lot of QB pressures. He's always been a sure tackler and good at stuffing the run. He's still good at that. And he's just another presence on that D-line that helps free up some of these other guys as well. So I do think it does, hurt Arizona. I still think they're an excellent team. But, yeah, I mean, I'm very, very sorry to hear J.J. Watt's dealing with another injury bug. It just seems like for the past 5 years, he can't catch a break. I'm also anxious to see if this ends up causing him to possibly retire. If he's just had it with the injuries. I mean, that does wear on guys. So I know we're going to keep a watchful eye on the podcast here to see what goes down with him long term, but definitely in the short term, it's a huge blow to Arizona.
Yeah, I feel like over the last 5-6 years, like you touched on, it seems like there's injury after injury after injury with JJ. It would have been nice to probably see him go out on top, which would have been, playing a full season, winning a Super Bowl. But if Arizona could go ahead and get him a Super Bowl, I'd be happy to see him retire. Stop putting his body through everything that he's been going through injury-wise over the last few years, and get that Super Bowl ring, solidify him into the Hall of Fame. The big thing to keep an eye on with Arizona now is the report that Melvin Ingram is not interested in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh wants to deal with an NFC team. Does Arizona have the firepower to go get Melvin Ingram to replace J.J. Watt for the rest of the season.
Smart move.
Kansas City's definitely reached out, as reports have said. They reached out. They're interested, but Steelers have no interest in doing it with an AFC team, which is understandable. So I feel like Arizona should be trying to scoop in and grab Melvin Ingram and replace JJ with him. I mean, you're not getting the same caliber player. You're also not getting the same person to lead your team by example. But you're not going to lose JJ in the locker room just because of an injury. So a guy like Melvin Ingram, I feel, would fit perfectly with what Arizona's trying to do.
I definitely agree with that. Melvin Ingram being on the market almost seems like perfect timing for Arizona with this injury. He has looked good for Pittsburgh. He's been one of the few bright spots on that Pittsburgh Steelers team that's been struggling this year. So I could definitely see Arizona being in play for him, but they are certainly going to be competing with other teams. I think there is going to be a decent market here for Melvin Ingram. Every team can always use a good pass rusher.
Now, staying with Arizona, they do play the Green Bay Packers tonight. And the Green Bay Packers come in missing 3 wide receivers. Rob, go ahead and hit me with the 3 wide receivers that are inactive tonight against the Arizona Cardinals.
It would be the number 1 receiver on the depth chart, Davante Adams, possibly, and in my opinion, the best receiver in the league right now. They are also missing their number 2 receiver, Allen Lazard, and their number 3 receiver on the depth chart, Martez Valdez-Scantling. So going into tonight, the top 2 targets that Aaron Rodgers will have that he plays with on a week-to-week basis will only be Randall Cobb and Robert Tonyan. This is really, really big news going into tonight's game. That was already going to be a very tough game for Green Bay, traveling down to the undefeated Arizona Cardinals. So if Rodgers gets it done tonight, that would be probably the most incredible game of his career.
If Rodgers gets it done tonight, we're probably talking Aaron Jones 3 touchdowns plus. If you got FanDuel,
Also that.
FanDuel 3,100 for Aaron Jones scored 3+ touchdowns tonight. So, I mean, if you want to play with it a little bit and try to win some money, wouldn't hurt to throw a couple dollars on that bet. What is the biggest takeaway for Green Bay without having their 3 main receivers to beat this Arizona team? Do you think there's a weakness that Green Bay could go ahead and attack to try to put themselves in a better situation to win this game?
Their defense is going to have to step up tonight. It's not been terrible all year, but their defense has not been great. They need a great performance from their defense tonight. I think if they can't force at least 3 turnovers, I don't see how they win this game.
I agree to what you're saying. I also feel if Arizona comes out as flat as they did against Houston on Sunday, and Rodgers could get the team going, and more or less, if Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers could get the team going, if both Aarons get going early, and it takes Arizona 2, 3, 4 drives like it did against Houston, we could be talking 14-0 or even 10-0 at that point. And, we all know how Aaron Rodgers is with the lead. So I think the game plan has to be to try to attack on this Arizona team early, get the lead, and then make it to where Arizona has to give Aaron Rodgers the ball back. I feel like that's one of the bigger keys for Arizona tonight is to keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. So if Green Bay can speed up Arizona's offense by taking the lead early, keeping the lead, and then making them give the ball back to Aaron Rodgers continuously, I feel like that could dictate this game, and you could see possibly that upset. This Arizona team kind of reminds me last year with Pittsburgh. Was it last year? Pittsburgh's team where they were undefeated for a few weeks. And then they went on and they ended up losing, and then another loss came, and another loss came, and another loss came, and then they went into the wild card round and got blown out. This Arizona team's not really proven to me yet that they are as good as their record states. So a Green Bay win without 3 receivers, I mean, it's still a really big win. So I'm not fully against the idea of Green Bay winning this game. I know, Rob, you're a little bit on the opposite end. You feel like Green Bay is going to lose, right?
I think they're going to lose, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I just, if Green Bay was healthy, I think this is an amazing game. But Rodgers not having his top three receivers, I don't see it being as competitive as it should be. And I mean, not only is Green Bay down their those receivers, by the way, but they were not healthy going into the week, even without losing these receivers. So, they got some injuries up front on defense. That's been, to me, losing Smith, their best pass rusher, early this year. I think that's been one of the biggest reasons their defense has struggled because they cannot generate a pass rate.
I completely agree with, I completely agree with what you're saying. When it comes to the pass rush and Preston Smith being out, I just feel like this is a game where everyone counts Rodgers out and Rodgers goes and does something that only Rodgers can do. So I can't bet against Green Bay tonight.
I have to, only because I don't think they're going to be able to generate pressure on Kyler, which means Kyler's going to get to be Kyler in the backfield, have all the time in the world, get them to bite on deep coverages, be able to make him pay with his feet, and then vice versa. I just don't think Green Bay has the defensive or offensive firepower this particular week to make this a competitive game. I hope they prove me wrong, because
Oh no, we lost Rob here. All right, so in the meantime, while we try to get Rob back after we lost him, there are some decent bets tonight with this Green Bay game. I believe that Rodgers having to win this game in a sense, with a struggling defense, and then having really none of his main weapons on the depth chart 1 through 3. Randall Cobb's gonna have to have a good game. So if you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out a same game parlay, if you can get Randall over, because Randall's probably sitting around 50, 60 yards tonight. Try to get Randall over. Look at Tunyon getting a touchdown. Look at Jones getting at least 2. They have a point spread of 6.5. To me, I think Green Bay could cover 6.5. I know that some people are going to say more than likely not, because of the way that the wide receivers are set up with Green Bay. But I'm a believer of Rodgers, and if anybody can get this done tonight, I believe it is Aaron Rodgers and what Aaron Jones can do in the backfield. I feel like this is a game where Aaron Jones goes and has a Derrick Henry type game, maybe 150 yards, a couple touchdowns. But I feel like the 150 yards, what people don't realize is Aaron Jones isn't just a runner. He's also a really good pass catcher. So you're talking about a guy who can get you 150 to 175 yards, something like an Alvin Kamara here. And we've seen it before with the New Orleans Saints with Drew Brees and Kamara, when they needed a game to win and they didn't have a receiver because of injury or just not having a receiver on the depth chart that was good enough. Kamara went and had huge games when Drew Brees needed him the most. So as much as it is on Rodgers to win this game tonight, Aaron Jones could be the key factor in this game and actually take over like a Kamara type game and give you 150 to 175 yards all purpose and give you 2-3 touchdowns, and that could be the difference maker against Arizona.
I think they 100%. I agree. If Green Bay has a shot tonight, they are going to have to control the clock to keep Kyler and that explosive offense off the field. So Aaron Jones plays a huge role, and I expect him to get over 100 yards tonight, regardless of whether they win or get blown out. Because early they're going to try and pound the rock, I think, with him. And just so you know, another good prop bet for tonight would be to take Aaron Jones over 59.5 yards, because that's what his line is currently at on FanDuel Sportsbook. And I think you could make some quick, easy money taking that. But I just, like I said earlier, I don't know that they can get it done. Hopefully it's close. They're going to need guys to step up on that Green Bay roster tonight.
So switching gears from Green Bay and Arizona tonight, let's go into what we have this weekend. Before we break down game by game, give our picks and have a conversation on everything that's going on inside the NFL over the weekend, I just want to touch on Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles and what kind of disaster it is here in Philadelphia.
Well, we're a growing flower here in Philadelphia, and you gotta water the roots, and you gotta make sure you water the roots every day, Matt.
So you're gonna come over later, Rob, and put a flower on my door. I'm sorry. To me, high school, college, NFL, arena football, even Pop Warner football, you don't sit down with a group of men, 53 men, and put a flower on your locker room door and say that we are this flower and we are in the root stage and we're going to grow to be this flower. That doesn't work. I'm sorry, Nick Sirianni. At first, I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and everyone knows that I bashed you in the beginning. I did not want you. I did not think you were going to be a great coach. But then I did give you the benefit of the doubt after the preseason. After week 1, I was calling for your head, even though we won. Getting off of Sirianni because there's also more blame to go around. Jonathan Gannon is probably the worst defensive coordinator the Eagles have ever had. I wish we had Jim Schwartz back. Going from Jonathan Gannon to the next victim that I want to hit on, and that would be Jalen Hurts. I can't wait until you lose against Detroit this week so Gardner Minshew gets to start next week, because you're another one that I said from the jump I was not interested in having you as my starting quarterback. You did not show me anything that made me feel like you were going to be a star or somebody that could lead my team, and you are proving that by regressing week by week instead of getting better each week. Now, I understand the head coaching situation and the offense has been really, really bad, but you are playing a role in how bad this offense is, and I'm not going to let that get thrown under the carpet because Sirianni is a bad coach, because in Philadelphia, nobody cared when Carson Wentz had no fucking weapons. It was always Carson Wentz's fault. When the offensive line was hurt, it was Carson Wentz's fault. When Peterson didn't know what he was doing, it was Carson Wentz's fault. When Howie Roseman was drafting J.J. Arcega-Whiteside instead of DK Metcalf's fault, DK Metcalf, it was Carson Wentz's fault because he should have made J.J. Arcega-Whiteside better than DK Metcalf. And then we go and we draft Jalen Reagor, and he was supposed to be better than Justin Jefferson if Carson Wentz was better. No. Sorry, Jalen. Eagles fan base has gotten too soft over the last year, and we have sat here and we've patted you on the back after every bad game, after every bad throw, after every bad mistake, and we did not give the same credit to Carson Wentz, and now Carson's out here in Indianapolis balling out with 11 touchdowns, 1 pick. His completion percentage is over 63%. He's got a QBR over 100. He's top 10 in the league in yards. If the Indianapolis Colts defense holds up against Baltimore, this team's a playoff team. I still think they're possibly a playoff team. We're going to get a first-round pick from Indianapolis because Carson's going to play all season long. Everyone heard me say here first that Carson Wentz was going to have a stellar year once he got out of Philadelphia because nobody wants to be in Philadelphia. We just got a report that the defensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams did not even fly out to take the head coaching position in an interview because he did not want to deal with the root of all evil and Howie Roseman. So that's how I feel about Philadelphia now that I got it all out of the way. Let's hit these weekend games, Rob. Big Rob.
Yeah, I just wanted to hit on one little bright spot on my end of football. The Las Vegas Raiders are 5-2, leading the division, and Derek Carr is having an MVP-like season. So, just excited to watch my team actually get some W's for a change. It's nice to see. I just had to drop some Raiders stuff because we're on a bye this week, so I can't talk about us when we talk about this weekend's games.
That's perfectly fine. Let's get into this week. What we got this weekend? What is in store in the NFL?
So, we got some matchups this weekend. Some matchups I find more interesting than some of these others I think are going to turn out to be. Let's start off with a big divisional matchup here. You got Tampa Bay at New Orleans this weekend. Tampa Bay, one loss on the year is to New Orleans, week 1, where they got routed. So this is an interesting game. Right now on FanDuel, they got Tampa Bay favored 5.5 points. New Orleans is a 5.5 point dog at home. So, your thoughts on this game, Matt?
All right, so I'm 19-2 or 20-2 over the last 3 weeks. Nobody tail responsibly. Let me say that. When I make these picks, Tampa Bay, New Orleans 5.5. If I could do an alternative point spread, I'm taking Tampa -10.
So you think Tampa's going to rout them
this
weekend?
You said this was the only loss for Tampa?
That's their one loss on the year was week 1 to the Saints.
Yeah.
They got smacked.
-10.
Oh, you're talking the Tom Brady revenge game. That's what you're talking. I see where you're going.
Yes.
Tampa Bay at the Saints -5.5. I won't alternate line it, but I would take Tampa Bay and swallow the points. I would say Tampa Bay by a touchdown this weekend. I think Tampa Bay obviously has turned it around. They haven't lost since then, and I just can't pick against Tom Brady when Jameis Winston is the quarterback on the other side. So I would take Tampa Bay and the -5. So I would just parlay them together into one bet. Moving on to a tough one to call here with the amount of points. You got Miami traveling up to Buffalo. Miami is a 13.5 point dog. So Buffalo is favored 13.5 in this game at home against a putrid Miami Dolphins team. I'm not going to lie. I'll take Buffalo -13.5. They might win this game by 21. You might want to even alternate spread this point even higher. I think Miami's terrible. I think Buffalo's one of the better teams in football. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
This is a game that I've actually kept off of my parlay list for the weekend. Because everything's telling me Buffalo -13.5. Everything. But for some reason, I want Miami +13.5.
So Miami 13.5.
I'm gonna go Miami 13.5 if I had to choose one.
Okay. We agree to disagree on that one. That's nothing new for us, though. If you want to follow the hotter hand on that one, it'd be Matt. A little bit hotter than I've been. We got another divisional game here. Carolina traveling to Atlanta. Atlanta, a 3.5 point favorite at home, so pretty much a pick'em game is what Vegas is saying. Usually a home advantage is usually about 3 points, so they're throwing a half-point swing on there. What are your thoughts on that one, Matt?
This is another one where I don't even want to touch.
Same. I don't particularly like either of the last two games myself, but if I had to pick, obviously that's what we're telling you.
So Atlanta's -3.5 right now.
-3.5 at home against Carolina, who's been on a downward trend in a heavy direction without Christian McCaffrey?
I'm going to take an alternative spread here. And I'm going to do Carolina -3.
Okay, so you got Carolina winning by a field goal,
Yes.
which will definitely get you better odds than probably the stock line. So I also agree. I would take Carolina to cover and win. Alternative point spread, I wouldn't go any higher than the -3 Matt's going, but if you want to do a safe bet, you just take them at +3.5. I think they cover that. I also think that they're going to win. I can't trust Atlanta's defense. You know, Carolina's offense isn't great, but their defense has been playing well this year. So if they can slow down that Atlanta offense, I think they're going to be able to actually move the ball on Atlanta's defense. I think you'll see Sam Darnold have a better game than he's had the past few weeks. So I agree on that one. We got the New York Giants playing Kansas City in Kansas City. The Chiefs are a -10 favorite at home against the Giants.
That's the Monday night game.
Yep.
We don't have an update on Patty yet.
No, which does make a difference. If I was going to bet this game, which I don't plan to, I would just take the Giants to cover the points, solely based on the fact that Kansas City hardly ever covers, even if they do win under the Patrick Mahomes era. I think they've only covered like once in their last 10 games. So,
see, this is where it strikes me. If Patty plays, this could be the turnaround game for Kansas City to get them going. Playing a Giants team that won last week 25-3 over Carolina, they're going to be a little bit full of themselves. This is a game where Patty needs to show out. It's a primetime game, Monday night. This is the game where Patty goes out and throws for 405 touchdowns. So I would take, if Patty's playing, I got Kansas City -10.
Okay. But if he's not, then you would swing the other way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I could see that. We got another divisional matchup this week, and this is a interesting game of two teams that are pretty hot right now. Tennessee Titans travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. The Colts are a -2 at home, so Vegas has basically no idea who's going to win this game, is what they're telling you with that line. Since Matt is a big Carson Wentz guy, I'll let you take the lead on this one. Who do you got?
Tennessee alternative, Tennessee -6.
So you got Tennessee basically by a touchdown.
Yes, sir.
Over Indianapolis. I'd agree. I think Indy has looked much improved. I just think Tennessee's a little bit better of a team, and especially right now, they've been absolutely red hot. I would take Tennessee -3, but being that they're a +2 dog, that's still going to give you better odds. So I just think, I don't know that Indianapolis can stop Derrick Henry from being Derrick Henry right now.
No.
I don't know if anybody can. So that's going to make it tough for them to win this game. Moving on to another one that Vegas believes is going to be a rout. The Los Angeles Rams go to Houston to play the Texans. The Rams are a 14.5-point favorite playing Houston this weekend.
The 14.5 scares me. This Houston team is bad. It's really bad. And a lot of people said that this Detroit team's really bad, and then Detroit covered the 16.5-point spread against the Rams last week. 14.5 so much. Like, that's a college spread.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's the Buffalo spread, this spread, those are both huge spreads. That's why I'm not betting this game this week either. The
It,
14 and a half should scare you. That's a ridiculous line in the NFL.
all right.
But I want to. Oh man, I don't even know who to pick here.
I don't
This
want
is
to.
probably
I
the
don't want
toughest
to.
line.
I don't want to alternative spread it because it's going to cost you money in the long run. Because you could take Houston plus 14.5 for my alternative spread, but my alternative spread would probably be Rams minus 10 to be on the safe side if this is going into a parlay. Because I feel like they could
Yeah,
cover
if you're
10.
heading into a parlay, you could maybe throw this bet in there on like a minus 10 line. But with that 14 and a half point spread, I would stay far away from this game. I think the Rams will win. I just couldn't tell you by how much. So that was a tricky one. We're gonna get the other giant point spread out of the way since we've already done the minus 10 Kansas City game and the minus 13 and a half Buffalo game and the minus 14 and a half Houston Rams game. Let's just go on to the Cincinnati Bengals going to New York to play the Jets. The Jets are a 10 and a half point dog at home to a what appears to be very good Bengals team.
This is another one, the 10.5. We spoke earlier. I said I had the idea of putting Cincinnati at 9.5. That's what their spread was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
The 10.5 is iffy. The 9.5 is still iffy. The Cincinnati's team's coming off a huge win against Baltimore. And then you have this Jets team that got destroyed by New England. And then they go and they trade for Joe Flacco, who is a lot better of a quarterback than what they have at the moment in New York. So, 10.5. If Flacco plays, I got to take the Jets 10.5. If Flacco doesn't play, it's Cincy minus 10.5.
Yeah. Again, these are those types of games I like to avoid these big spreads. I would take Cincy to win. I don't know if I would do a 10.5 point spread. I might just do a money line. If I was going to bet this game, maybe just money line bet Cincinnati and take what you're going to get with that. I would definitely not bet the spread on this game. 10.5 is too much for me. So all I'll say is I would take Cincinnati money line, but I would stay away from the spread on this one. That moves us into two more teams from that particular division of Cincinnati's, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers going to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland is a minus 3.5 currently at home against Pittsburgh.
Nick Chubb is playing. I believe Baker is supposed to be playing. I'm going to take Cleveland minus 6.5 on an alternative spread.
Yep. I'd probably mirror that bet, even with Keenum playing at quarterback. The Pittsburgh offense is putrid, and Cleveland's just a better roster. So that's a pretty quick, easy one for me. We got San Francisco going to Chicago this weekend. San Francisco is a 3.5 point favorite on the road. I'll just lead off with this one. Chicago stinks. The Bears are terrible. Justin Fields looks terrible. His offensive line is terrible. So San Francisco, I would definitely take the San Francisco money line, and I'd probably take San Francisco at more than 3.5 points. I might alternative it up to like 6.5. I think they win by at least a touchdown.
This is one where you can see the double-digit point spread. 11.5, 12 in San Francisco's favor. But coming off of a terrible game against Tampa Bay, losing 38-3, and then San Francisco's coming off a game where They allowed Indianapolis to come back and win. Alternative spread, I guess we'll go San Francisco minus 9.5.
Okay. We got Jacksonville Jaguars traveling cross country to Seattle. Seattle's a minus 3.5 point favorite at home, even without Russell Wilson. Your thoughts on this, Matt? Side note, I absolutely hate this game as well.
I'm going to go Jacksonville plus the 3.5.
Yeah, the half is what's tripping me up. Because if I was going to predict this game, I would say Seattle by a field goal. So I'd have to agree, probably Jacksonville plus the 3. So we got the New England Patriots fresh off of a crushing victory over the New York Jets, surprise. Traveling to Los Angeles to play the Chargers, who are coming off of a bye week after being embarrassed by the Ravens. If this was me, I got the Chargers alternative spread plus 7. I think they win this game probably by 2 scores, probably a 10-point win. Just my guess.
What's the actual point spread of this game?
I believe it was New England plus 4.5 on the road.
It's Mac Daddy coming off of a huge win. Chargers got blown out. One of my 2 losses in the last 3 weeks. I'm staying away from the Chargers for that reason because they like to ruin my dreams. Let's go New England 4.5.
Okay, so you got New England to cover the plus 4.5 there. It is possible. I don't know that this New England team is really all that good. I mean,
actually,
yeah, you got a blowout win, but it was over the Jets. So I mean, that's not.
Actually,
that's like a varsity team playing a JV team.
I gotta change that. I forgot.
Okay.
I forgot New England's top corner is out for the rest of the year.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go Chargers minus 4.5.
Okay. So then in the I don't give a crap game of the week, you got the Washington football team traveling to Denver to play the Broncos. Both teams have looked terrible the past few weeks and this season. The Broncos are the minus 3 favorite at home, so basically Vegas calling this a pick'em game. I don't really like this one this week. Both teams are so up and down and unpredictable. I don't know what I'm going to get week to week, so those are games I like to stay away from. Gun to my head, I had to choose Denver minus 3 at home.
I'm going to alternative point this, and I'm going to flip it. I'm going to go Washington minus 3 on the road.
Okay. So we got a pretty big NFC matchup. You got a hot Minnesota Vikings team hosting an equally hot and one of the better looking teams in the league, Dallas Cowboys team. So Dallas travels to Minnesota. Minnesota is a 1.5 point dog at home.
Coming off of a bye, I told you earlier, I got Dallas minus 5.5.
Yeah, I like Dallas here off the bye. Minnesota's looked better, but not completely buttoned up yet. And I just think Dak's better than Kirk Cousins. So, and weapons-wise, I think they both have great weapons. So, I just give advantage a little bit to the Dallas roster. I would definitely bump the line up a little bit in Dallas' side. I would go probably up to like minus 4 for the Cowboys, 4.5. So we got 2 games left. The game we talked about earlier, tonight's game, Green Bay at Arizona. Arizona 6.5-point favorites. I said earlier, I think I got Arizona winning tonight, and I think it could be a blowout. I am taking Arizona minus 6.5 and the Arizona money line tonight. They are in a same game parlay I had put together earlier today, and I feel very confident in. But I just don't see Green Bay being able to get it done with all the injuries. Matt, I know you said that Green Bay might keep it close, so I don't know where you fall on this spread or what you want to say here.
Well, I'm gonna go with a different spread than 6.5. I know it's been what I've been doing with these alternatives here, but I'd like Green Bay plus 4.5. I do think this is gonna come down to at least a field goal either way. So I bring down the plus from 6.5 to 4.5. Make a little bit of extra money on this, and I still think they do cover.
Okay. And then, because we are the Philly Frenzy podcast, save this game for last. Philadelphia at Detroit. Philadelphia is a minus 3.5-point favorite in this game against the Lions team that some weeks looks really scrappy and competitive, and then other weeks looks absolutely terrible. So, you being the Philadelphia fan, where do you see this game at?
For comfort level, I would take Detroit plus 8.5. For money purposes, I would take Detroit minus 5.
So you think there's a good chance that Detroit actually wins this game this weekend?
I think there is a great chance
You're
that Detroit
you're
wins
that
this game.
out on
Yes.
you're that out on your Eagles, huh?
Yes. No question.
This is a tough game. Both teams have been kind of up and down. Like I mentioned earlier with Detroit, I think Philadelphia has been the same way. I think they've had their wins have come on weeks where they look pretty good, and then the next week they look flat. So it's one of those games that's tougher to pick. I'm gonna go Detroit plus the 3.5. I think that half point is actually nice in this game because I think it may be a field goal either way. If I was gonna make a money line bet, I think I'd have to lean towards Detroit. They've had a few heartbreaking losses this season. I think that this is a winnable game for them, so I would go with Detroit, which wraps up this weekend's scheduled games and our bets on them. So we're going to transition over into our power rankings before we end our NFL show. Get them off for this week before the game goes off tonight. So, Matt, where are you at for who do you have locked in at your number 10 spot here?
You want to do 10-1 or 1-10?
I want to do 10-1 this week.
All right.
Make them hold for it. Make them wait for the best team.
10-1. All right. You want to start it off?
I'll start it off at number 10. I got the Baltimore Ravens. They're 4-2. They got absolutely embarrassed by a division rival last week, so they definitely dropped in my rankings a bit from that. I do think Cincinnati's a great team though, so it's not going to knock Baltimore out of the top 10, but they came out flat and they got embarrassed. Cincinnati routed them, but I still think Baltimore would beat a lot of teams in the league in head-to-head matchups, so they're my number 10 team.
All right. Number 10. Damn. I wanted to do a different team, but I'm gonna have to agree with you here.
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore was much higher on our list last week, but that loss was brutal to watch. Number 9, I have the Las Vegas Raiders, 5-2, leading the division. They've looked pretty good since the week they look bad the week all the Gruden stuff happened. Since then, they've turned it around. They've had two nice performances. So, you know, just the way they're playing right now, they're definitely a top 10 team. We beat Baltimore earlier this year, so I think we could do it again. Um, I have them at number 9. I think they're good, but I'm always skeptical because I'm a Raiders fan, so I follow this team very closely, and they tend to like to let me down, so I'm not moving them up higher than this yet.
All right, at 9. I'm trying to do different teams. I don't want to just follow what you're doing. At 9, I will take the. I mean, I guess it's got to be Las Vegas at this point. Looking at the 8 teams ahead of them, it's Las Vegas. I wanted to do a different team than you, and I can't make.
I know I'm
I can't
throwing
make
you off. 'Cause
I can't make a
I'm going
judgment.
first this week.
Yeah.
So, in fairness, I'll let you get a first pick. Who do you have at number 8?
At 8, I would have to put Cincinnati. They looked good last week against the Ravens. They are 5-2, but I need another runaway game like they had against the Ravens to move them up from 8. I believe I had them sitting either at 9 last week or out of the top 10. Yes, so I had them sitting outside the top 10 last week, so they've made their way into the top 10. I'm not ready to move them higher than 8, but, I have them sitting right there at 8.
At 8, I have the Tennessee Titans. They've looked really good the past few weeks. Their ability to run the ball with Derrick Henry is obviously next level. Tannehill's looked good, but not as good as he has looked in the past. Julio continues to be a non-factor via injury. So I have some questions in the pass game. Obviously, they can run the ball pretty much better than anybody in the league. And Derrick Henry is an absolute monster. Their defense has been playing well lately, but early in the season they didn't look good. So I need to just see a little bit more film of good defensive play, and I'd like to see, they've yet to be in a situation with these wins where they had to rely on Tannehill really to throw the ball. It's been the Derrick Henry show. It's kind of a lack of trust in the pass game and the defense with me that keeps them down towards 8. At 7, I have the team you just had at 8. I have the Bengals. I think if they played right now, I'd have to favor the Bengals. Their offense is absolutely explosive. Chase and Burrow are ridiculous together, and their defense has been playing good football. And they're doing this without their top running back because Mixon is down right now. So when Joe Mixon comes back, I think this team could be even more dangerous offensively. I really just like Burrow and what he's doing and how that team's been performing lately. And with that, the way they handled Baltimore this past week is what moved them up my top 10 a little bit.
So we're at 7. I'm going to go Green Bay.
Okay.
They are 6-1 on the season. They've had some good wins, but I just feel like the wins they have are against not very good opponents. really their biggest win of the season is against the Cincinnati Bengals, who I have at 8. Um, in overtime after missing 20 field goals both sides. So,
Yeah.
I mean, besides that, the last 2 weeks they played Chicago and Washington. They both kept it in between. Both teams kept it between 2 scores. So, I mean, at 7, I'm going to go Green Bay.
Yeah, this like 6, 7, 8 section here, I had a tougher time with, um, just because I think these teams are all very close with Tennessee and Cincinnati, and at number 6 I have the Green Bay Packers. Um, if it was strictly just basing it on this week with all those injuries at receiver, they would obviously be lower, but that's not what I'm judging it on. I'm judging it on their roster normally. And they're at 6 strictly pretty much because they have a Ron Rodgers, and he's just, a more proven high elite level quarterback than Burrow and then Ryan Tannehill. So I feel like if they were on a neutral site field, like if this was a Super Bowl matchup, I would take Green Bay. I would take Rodgers. So I'm leaving them above those teams still. Of course, like any other week, that could change week to week here. So I got Green Bay at 6, Matt. Who do you have?
At 6, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
Their defense is the shaky part of their team, I believe. And they still haven't really established a run game to the point to where it's going to take a lot of pressure off of Josh Allen until they develop that run game and their defense plays at a little bit higher of a level than they are right now. I can't see them being a top 5 team at the moment.
I mean, our defense only had one bad game all year. I have them at 5, the Buffalo Bills. The last game they played, because they had a bye week. Yeah, they got, beat pretty badly. I don't think their defense is as good as it played those first few weeks, but I don't think it's as bad as they looked in the last game. Josh Allen is still a stud, and that offense is still ridiculously powerful. The run game isn't quite established, like you said, but it's much improved from last year.
Yeah.
And we all saw that what the Bills could do come playoff times last year. Josh Allen has a strong arm. He don't have no problem throwing it in the cold, and at the end of the year. So I still like Buffalo, just a little bit more than you do, but we've been pretty comparable. Can I try and guess your number 5?
Sure.
I think number 5 you're going to have Tennessee?
No.
Really?
I have Dallas.
All right, so who do you got at 5? Dallas Cowboys, huh?
The Dallas Cowboys at 5.
You're a hater.
Hey, I'm not hating. This is
I'm kidding.
This is a defense. They have gotten the takeaways when they've needed them, but this is also a defense that has had a lot of penalty yards. So, if the takeaways stop coming, is their defense going to be able to get off the field? So, I have them sitting at 5. I feel like that kind of stops them from being a complete football team. I do believe if their penalty numbers dropped, I could easily have them sitting 2nd or 3rd in the power rankings, but with the penalties being as high as they are defensively, and then not to mention they've had some offensive penalties throughout the year that have killed drives where, I believe in the Tampa game they had a late penalty offensively that ended up killing a drive that they could have ended up beating Tampa Bay to start the season. So, I mean, it's really just them not being disciplined enough for me to put them higher than 5 when the 4 teams left, I feel, are better than them offensively, defensively, and disciplined-wise. And you need to be top at all 3 to be able to compete for that Lombardi trophy.
So, I got the Cowboys at 4, 1 spot ahead of you. I just think I talked about Buffalo having an explosive offense. I think Dallas is offense is even a little bit more explosive than Buffalo. And I think their defensive issues that can come up are comparable. Also, I believe that Dallas has a better run game. So I got them just edging out Buffalo a little bit, though I do think it would be a coin flip game if they actually played. I think both teams have a ton of talent. But Dak is absolutely red hot this year. If he can stay healthy, it makes this Cowboy team look completely different than they've looked in the past few years. So I have them at 4. Your number 4 team.
You want to guess again?
I mean, I'm going to guess this is where you have the Titans.
No.
I mean, I feel like the Titans got to be somewhere around here.
What if I told you the Titans weren't in my top 10? No. No. At 4, I have the Rams.
Okay.
Right now, the Rams, you saw last week, their defense is starting to... I can't really say starting to because they played against the goddamn Giants 2 weeks ago and they looked great. But their defense isn't holding the way that I was expecting them to throughout the year. And one thing with Stafford is Stafford just has that mentality of, I'm going to throw it up and let my receivers go get it. And, you know, that's a great mentality to have, but we've seen that kill him in the past. And one thing that, you know, we saw against the Rams a few weeks back, not the Rams, the Cardinals a few weeks back, was he couldn't get on the same page with Cooper Kupp that whole game. Arizona did a hell of a job messing with Stafford's head when it came to trying to throw to Cooper Kupp. And, you know, these last couple weeks they've played really bad defenses, and it's making them look like they're a better team to me than they actually are. You know, they played Detroit last week, and everyone had Detroit getting blown out by that 16.5 point spread. And Detroit covered that 16.5. They even covered the 10. So this team in the Rams, I believe, is on that outskirts of 3. You know, a big week this week. They play Houston. So you know, maybe
they should have a big week this week playing the Houston Texans.
2 weeks from now, we could have this discussion that maybe they're 2 or 3 when they play the Tennessee Titans.
Who I'm guessing you have at number 3?
Yes, I have the Tennessee Titans at 3.
So you're a little higher on the Titans than me. Like I said, I still have some concerns with them and their explosive playability, which is, you know, today's NFL.
There ain't no need for explosive play. Give it to Derrick Henry and let him run, baby.
Bruh, 10 years ago, the Tennessee Titans would probably be number 1 in my power rankings this week, but isn't the same game.
Just give the ball to Derrick Henry, let him run. You want an explosive play? This man ran the fastest time as a running back 2 weeks ago at 21.8 miles an hour.
He's a freak.
Yes, so there's no reason.
But he's only one man.
Yeah, but that one man could rush for touchdowns. He could catch touchdowns. And what did he do last week? He threw a touchdown.
Derrick Henry heard us talking about how he probably won't win the MVP because he's not a quarterback, and he said, "Hold my beer," and threw a touchdown pass. That's what he did. Look, I think they're red hot right now. I just have concerns with when they get into the playoffs and they are playing, you know, a Buffalo, a Cincinnati, you know, if they need to get yards through the air, are they capable of doing it with the weapons they have and, you know, the offensive line? The offensive line run blocks great. Their pass blocking gets shaky at times, and Tannehill, just like most every other quarterback in the league, does not perform well under pressure. So
how do you beat Josh Allen?
Why you're high on them?
How do you beat Josh Allen?
You hit him.
No. Keep the ball out of his hands. How do you beat Patty Mahomes? Take the ball out of his hands.
Just like they did last week.
How do you beat Joe Burrow right now with Cincinnati? Keep the ball out of his hands.
I get it.
What can Tennessee do? Keep the ball out of all these boys' hands.
I get it. I get why you're high on them. I think they're a talented team. I just need to see more. And if we're talking end of the year, if they have to have Derrick Henry carry the ball this many times, how fresh is he going to be in the playoffs?
We know this. We
I don't
had
have
this
concerns
discussion
about them right now.
We've had this
I
discussion.
don't have concerns about
Derrick
him right
Henry.
now.
Derrick Henry only gets better the more times he carries the ball. Derrick Henry wants the ball 600 times a year. He wants it. Like,
Yeah. Yes, he does in the beginning of the year, but he's going to take a lot of hits, and it's a lot of running.
yeah, but this is the perfect. This is the perfect
need to
time.
know that he's going to be fresh.
This is the perfect time. You get Derrick Henry his 20 to 25, even 30 touches a game right now. What's going to happen is you're going to get these defenses that are going to drop 9 in the box, and that's when Julio and AJ Brown go crazy. And you know that's all it takes
If they're healthy.
you get these boys to come in and put 9 in the box, and you let AJ Brown or Julio go one-on-one with some of these cornerbacks in the AFC, and you're talking Tannehill could have a huge game because all he's got to do is throw it up to these two big receivers.
Well, I agree with that, but right now and for most of the season, Julio Jones hasn't been able to stay healthy, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy for the last 5 years. He's like the offensive version of J.J. Watt. He's great when he's on the field, but he hadn't been on the field, so he's not great.
All right, so what do you got at 3?
That worries me with them. I have the Rams at 3.
All right.
Their defense is good. They have a lot of talent on it, too. So even, like we said, they have had some weeks where they haven't looked as good as we thought they should, but they also have big game experience. Matt Stafford has been an absolute stud this year. Almost 2,200 yards. He's third in the league in that, 19 touchdowns, second in the league. He only has 4 picks. He leads the league in QBR. As long as that defense stays healthy and can step it up when they need to step up, which with the likes of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, we all know they have the ability to do on any given week. I think they're one of the top 3 teams in the league. It's just where I'm at on them. Moving to number 2, I have the Tampa Bay Bucks, TB12, the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers, any of the names above. They look really good every week. Tom Brady is leading the league in pass yards at 400 years old. He's leading the league in touchdowns at 400 years old. The guy has 21 touchdowns and 3 picks. For people who don't get how ridiculous that is, okay, typically NFL quarterbacks want to stay to like above a 2-to-1 touchdown pass interception ratio. Good quarterbacks are usually about 2.5 to 3. My man's 7-to-1 right now. That's ridiculous. I mean, the defense hasn't looked great every week, but they've also been banged up. So if they can get themselves healthy, we all saw what this roster could do last year. They returned all their starters. I just have them going to the Super Bowl right now. It's Brady. I don't bet against Brady. That's how you lose money. Period.
All right, at 2, I'm going to shake it up. I got Arizona at 2. They don't get the number 1 spot until they beat Green. They don't get the number 1 spot until they beat Green Bay tonight. Even without Green Bay having 3 receivers, this is the game that Arizona needs to solidify them being the number 1 team in football. And like I said, I don't know if they get it done tonight.
Well, we're on different pages there. Arizona Cardinals are the number 1 team in football. They're 7-0, and not only are they 7-0, they have smashed good teams this year. I know everybody keeps saying the same thing as you, that I need to see more. I need to see more. How many more top 10 teams do you need to see them smash through this year? It's just
how many
ridiculous.
top teams did we have to
Kyler's
see Pittsburgh beat last year? Pittsburgh started 10-0. And
okay,
they were number 1, 2, or 3 on a lot of power rankings last year. So I'm not ready to write the ship.
Weren't on mine.
I'm not ready to write the ship and give them number 1 yet. But if they beat Green Bay tonight, I'll give them number 1 next week.
I'm assuming you have the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers number 1.
No, I got Mac Daddy Jones in the New England Patriots. No, I got Tom Brady at number. I got Tom Brady number 1. It's not even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's the Tom Brady's in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, the TB12s.
this man said he's going to play until he feels like he can't play anymore. At this rate and the way he keeps himself in shape
It's
during
going
the
to be
offseason,
60.
50, 55, 60. You're talking dude that's going to win 20, 25 championships in his career because nobody's even coming close to what he's doing. And I hate Tom Brady. I literally hate him. Like, if Tom Brady fell when he tried to catch the Lombardi Trophy when it fell in the ocean and he didn't come back up, I might have been excited. But you always got to respect the player. And the way that Tom Brady has carried himself on the field, off the field, and what he's doing right now in Tampa Bay without having Bill Belichick, when people said that Bill Belichick was the best coach of all time, Tom Brady's proven a lot of people wrong that Belichick might not have been the best coach of all time. Brady might be the LeBron James of football. He might be the best coach of all time. Like, LeBron builds his teams and people get upset because he builds super teams. Brady built his team and people are getting upset because it's a super team. No, these guys are bringing in veterans that want to win championships, and Tom Brady is the best quarterback in football. He's still not better than Peyton Manning, but right now he's the best quarterback in football. So I got to give him best quarterback in football, and I got to give Tampa Bay the best team in football over the last 7 weeks because they started off in the beginning of the year, like you said, against New Orleans. They lost. They bounced back. They're now sitting at, 6-1?
They are 6-1.
So they're 6-1 on a 6-game win streak. What they did last week, I mean, you played against the Chicago Bears. You know, Chicago hasn't looked terrible this year besides the first start for Justin. They go out there and win 38-3, make Justin cry, think about actually quitting football because he had 3 interceptions and 3 turnovers, and 3 fumbles. So he had a total of 6 interceptions or 6 turnovers. So that defense came to play against them. And then you go and you look at the week before was a Thursday night game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I wish they would have killed Jalen Hurts, not physically, but mentally. Made him seem like he was Ben Simmons and didn't remember how to throw a ball and then had to go and, get back spasms looked at for a few weeks and then not be able to play at home. But the defense is starting to step up. When you look at the game against Philadelphia, they won 28-22, but Philadelphia ended up scoring 15 points in the last 5 minutes of the game. So, Tampa really did their thing in the beginning of the game, and it was kind of like the garbage minutes where Philadelphia's been scoring, where they took advantage of the defense. So, between the last 2 weeks, you take away the last 5 minutes, would they win these games 58-10? So, I mean, that looks like what Mac Daddy Jones just did last week against the Jets, but that was over 1 week, not 2.
So I'm going to blow up your entire argument there. Every team you just named that Tampa Bay has played and beaten, for the most part, are trash in the NFL. They've beaten one good team.
Which is?
They didn't rout them. Who? Tampa Bay's one good opponent that they beat?
Who's their one good team?
The only team I would say is a good team that they beat was the Cowboys, and the Cowboys, as we talked about earlier in our pairing rankings, could have won that game. They played another good team in the Rams. They got smacked around. Then they squeaked by the shaky Patriots, blow out the Dolphins, who hasn't. Only topping you by 6, but like you said, that was garbage time. But then if you go ahead and look at the Arizona Cardinals, who I have number 1, they shellacked the Titans week 1, who you have as your number 3 team in football.
That don't count. Tennessee sucks week 1 and week 2 every year. We know this. We know this. Yeah, I've learned this the hard way. You don't bet Ryan Tannehill until at least week 5.
Then they got their lucky win against the Vikings. I won't say that they didn't. They took care of business and smacked the Jags like they should have. Then they beat the Rams by 17 points, beat the Niners by a touchdown when the Niners were healthy, and held that offense that Kyle Shanahan's supposed to be the guru of to 10 points. Then they routed the Cleveland Browns. Then they routed the Texans.
I have a question here. When do we, as a NFL fan, stop saying the San Francisco 49ers are a good football team?
I didn't say that they're
No, no, no.
good right now.
I didn't
But
say
a few
you
weeks
did.
ago,
but
when they were healthy,
but when do we?
without Jimmy G, they're a terrible football team.
When-
I've said that for a couple weeks now.
Even with Jimmy G, when do we throw this argument out the window that they're actually a decent football team? Because they suck.
They're decent. They're not great. They're not a top 10 team, but they're in the top half of the league when they have Jimmy G. And their running backs are healthy, because I think their top 2 running backs are hurt again this year. I mean, they obviously need to address that in free agency, because you had none of them else got to get that can help if you want in that division. You have to be a complete team in that division to win. There's a lot of talent in that whole division. That's probably the best division in football when all the teams are healthy.
I got a question for you. So we did our top 10, right?
See. Yeah.
If you had to rank the 32nd worst team in football, and I gave you 3 choices, who's number 32? The Philadelphia Eagles, the Miami Dolphins, or the Detroit Lions?
Oh, man, that's tough.
Who's the worst team in football?
Right now?
Right now.
Through 7 weeks, it's Miami.
Do you think Miami's the worst team?
Of those 3, through 7 weeks, it's Miami. Miami's defense, which is what they're supposed to be good at, I'm not even going to get into the Tua side of things and how putrid the offense is. Their defense has been awful this year. I don't know what happened. This was one of the top defenses in the league last year. They have looked terrible. Granted, they're on the field a lot because their offense is terrible too, but they have been letting up big plays, giving up a ton of touchdowns, terrible in the red zone. I mean, from top to bottom, and I don't necessarily think it's Brian Flores. I think this is a roster problem. I think their GM is horrible down there as well. The GM of the other 2 teams you mentioned aren't very good either. But Miami would probably be, out of those 3 teams, the team I think is the worst. They're not the team I think is the worst in the league, though.
If Miami and Philadelphia played, who wins that game?
Philly by 10.
Really? And the worst
Philly by 10.
And I forgot a team, I'm sorry, and this is probably the worst team in football. That's the New York Jets.
Man. Yes, I guess. No, actually, no. The Jets aren't the worst team either. Nope.
Houston?
Yes, the Houston Texans are the worst team in football.
But I get
without Tyrod, they're the worst team.
Houston minus 10 against
Davis
Philly.
at quarterback.
Houston minus 10 against Philly.
No way. You just are hating on your home team because they're bad. They are bad. I agree with you. Philly's not a good team. But if you wanted my few worst bottom teams right now, Houston's the worst team. The Jets are the second worst team. Miami is the third worst team in football.
Do you think the Detroit Lions are better than an 0-7 record? That's really my question.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
They're way better than an 0-7 record.
We agree on that.
The amount of good teams. They've played some good teams this year and kept it pretty close in quite a few of the games that they were expected to get beat on. I think their offensive line is bad, and it didn't help that they lost their Pro Bowl level center a few weeks ago, which is one of the few bright spots on their offensive line. And it's very hard to recover from losing your center. That center quarterback exchange, the chemistry that is there with your starters, it's not there with backups. That hurts a lot more than just the blocking aspect of things. And their defense obviously has been hit or miss. They're not a good team, but they're better than an 0-7 team, I think. can't. They're not much higher up on the. I would do my standing. They are a little bit higher than a couple of these other teams.
All right. Before we cut this short, I want to talk about one trade proposal that I've seen recently that has to do with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I do want to get your input on this, and then I will give my input. All right. You're Howie Roseman, okay, in this scenario, and then we'll go over how you feel about this, because this is an actual report that I've been reading. You're Howie Roseman, all right? I'm calling you. Ring, ring, ring.
Okay.
Hey, Howie, how you doing? Howie?
How you doing, bud?
All right. So I got a deal for you here. I'm going to trade you Odell Beckham Jr. You send me Fletcher Cox. We're going to call it even, all right? Cool. Deal, right? Mr. Howie Roseman, are you still there?
No, that's a terrible dude.
It's a terrible deal, right?
And here, how is that it's absolutely all for the Eagles. That would be a terrible trade. Odell Beckham Jr. This is going to turn into a little bit of a hot take. Odell Beckham Jr. is overrated. He's probably the most overrated receiver in the league. He cannot stay healthy to save his life. And please, someone tell me what he's done since the catch. And I'm going to leave it at that.
All right, good, because I feel the same way. I hate the idea that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go and trade my defensive player of the year the last couple of years. Now, Hargrave is pretty much now the defensive player of the year on the Philadelphia Eagles. But in the past, it was Fletcher, and now that the idea of trading Fletcher Cox and you go and get Odell Beckham Jr., and you're not getting any draft compensation, and it's Fletcher for Odell. At this stage in Philadelphia's rebuild, I find it stupid to trade for a 31-year-old receiver who's getting paid $15 million a year, who has a team option the following year, and you are getting a diva who's going to come in, be a prima donna. That's why the Giants ended up trading him away, because they didn't want to deal with what he's going to bring when it comes to the headache mindset of a team and in the locker room when it is a bad team. And this right here in Philadelphia is a bad team. I don't feel like Devontae Smith needs to be anywhere near. Devontae Smith needs to be nowhere near a receiver like Odell Beckham. I don't even want to see them together in the Pro Bowl, training camp, mini camp, nothing. I don't want to see Devontae Smith working with anybody that is named Odell Beckham Jr. because all he's going to learn is to do one-handed catches and dance with mascots. So keep him away.
Well, one thing you don't have to worry about is the two of them meeting at the Pro Bowl anytime soon, because Odell Beckham's not going to make a Pro Bowl this year, and he'll probably get hurt again next year and not make a Pro Bowl again next year. Devontae Smith might make a Pro Bowl. He might make a Pro Bowl this year. You know, that team hasn't been good. He certainly looks good, though. With maybe not Pro Bowl level yet, but I think at some point in his career that man will make a Pro Bowl. I don't know if Odell Beckham Jr. will ever make a Pro Bowl again. If he's healthy, absolutely he could. But when's the last or next time he's going to be healthy?
With the point I'm trying to make here, as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and talking to Philadelphia Eagles fans when I say this on the podcast, it is okay to sell the team. I am fine with you trading our veterans before the trade deadline on Tuesday. But it needs to be for draft picks. I do not want Fletcher Cox traded for a 31-year-old wide receiver. I don't want Lane Johnson traded for a 33-year-old fucking cornerback. I don't want Darius Slay moved for you to go get me somebody who's going to play offensive tackle. If you're going to break apart this team before the trade deadline this year, which is on Tuesday, you're going to trade them for draft pieces only. And when you trade them for draft pieces, this offseason, you go and you fire Howie Roseman and you bring in, what is my guy's name? Who's the guy I'm in love with from ESPN?
You're in love with him, isn't it Riddick?
Thank you, because I forgot his name for a second. Louis Riddick. Okay,
Theo Riddick.
It's Louis
Riddick.
Theo was the running back from the Lions.
Theo Riddick was a former running back for the for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, so Louis Riddick is somebody that I'm in love with the idea of being a GM, and, you know, you give him 17, 18, 19 draft picks, and he comes in and, you know, he's got 3 first-round draft picks, 2 second-round draft picks, and he can build the team really the way that he would want to. I think that that's what needs to get done. I'm okay with separating myself from veterans this season, but I don't want veterans back in return. It needs to be for young talent or draft pieces. I don't know how you feel in that, Rob, because I know you're in a different situation with the Raiders, but
the Raiders should be buyers at the trade deadline here. If I was the Raiders, I'd be looking to buy at the trade deadline, and what I would be looking to buy is maybe an additional pass rusher to put in the rotation, and some secondary help at corner. We're not bad, but we're not great, and you can always use depth at those spots because injuries do happen, and they're the 2 key pieces of your defense. You know, I think my team has 2 Defensive Player of the Year candidates on it right now that nobody's talking about. Denzel Perryman, who's leading the league in tackles and run stuffs, and then Mad Max Crosby, who going into last week was ahead of Aaron Donald in QB pressures, in QB sacks, and in run stuffs. And nobody's talking about him, but Aaron Donald will still probably be leading the votes when they start to come out for these kind of awards, because people vote on a name and not an actual player's numbers. If they did, TJ Watt would have won Defensive Player of the Year last year. So,
hey, Las Vegas, I got a question.
But as far as
I want to cut you off real quick. You're Las Vegas, right? You know, we just had this conversation on what you think Las Vegas needs to go get. Howie calls you Tuesday morning, and Howie says, I could trade you Fletcher and Darius Slay right now, but I need a 2 and a 5 this year and a 3 next year.
So I really like Fletcher, and I think one of the biggest needs that the Raiders have is interior linemen, pass rushing. I don't think Fletcher's what he was years ago, but he's still a heck of a player, and he's better than any tackle that I got on my team. I would love Fletcher. I don't know that I love Slay. I also don't know if we can afford the cap for both, because I actually don't know what our cap situation is right now. But I could tell you this: if Howie called me and said, give me a 3rd-round pick for Fletcher Cox, immediately do it. It's an immediate need filled on this team. As far as big play Slay is concerned, the only thing big play about him anymore is the amount of them that he gives up.
Whoa, Slay's played really well this year. Look at his numbers. Slay's played really well against the number 1 receivers this year. He also has a few picks. We're not going to bash big play Slay today, all right? I'm on big play Slay side.
I will bash big play Slay.
I'm on big play Slay side.
Look, I'm not calling the man terrible, but he's definitely not what he was in Detroit.
Oh, no.
He's not the same level of corner.
No, I mean, that happens.
But no, that trade you offered, I mean, if you said give me Slay for a 3rd and a 5th this year and a 3rd next year, I'd do it for Cox and Slay.
So if you were to give, if I was Howie and I wanted a 3rd and a 5th this year and a 3rd next year, you would do it. But a 2 and a 5 is out of the question.
I don't know that it's out of the question, but I'm trying not to pay that much for it. I mean, it depends on. It's tough because where are the Raiders at, and
now
where does that put you at salary cap and stuff for possibility to make plays this offseason? Because even with those 2 additions, I don't think that makes the Raiders a Super Bowl contender.
Here's a question for you.
I mean, I think it solidifies us getting to the playoffs, but what matters more, I don't know.
You got a 3rd, so you're dangling this 3rd-round draft pick Tuesday morning, right? And you get on the phone and you talk to Howie, and then you talk to Pittsburgh, and a 3rd-round choice for either
I want
Ingram or Fletcher. Who are you trading your 3rd for?
Oh, man.
You only get one, but it's going to cost you a 3rd-round draft pick. Which one of the 2 are you trading your 3rd-round draft pick for?
Fletcher. Fletcher, because I have two guys that are performing right now on the edge. In Ngakoue and Crosby, we have two guys, two bona fide starters on the edge. It would make Ingram a role player where if I'm bringing Fletcher in, it's for him to immediately start in the center of that line. So I think Fletcher would make a long-term a bigger impact. I think he also would help us hugely with our inability to defend the interior run at times. We're pretty much at this point like relying on Kukowski and Perriman to come up and make tackles in the gap instead of getting any real pressure from the interior linemen on the run game. So and Fletcher is a monster in the run game. So even if he's not getting to the quarterback like he used to, I think Fletcher Cox makes a bigger impact for the Raiders than Ingram. But if you're a team that doesn't have two outside rushers that are performing, then I think you have to go Ingram because the edge rusher is more important.
All right, so you're on the phone with Philadelphia. You're going back and forth. Philly's looking for a 2. You get them to go down to a 3, and then you bring up the name, or would you bring up the name instead of Fletcher, and seeing what the price would be to get Javon Hargrave? Would you be more interested?
Absolutely.
Would you be more interested in dropping a 3rd this year and a 4th next year for Hargrave compared to just dropping a 3rd for Fletcher?
God, yeah. Javon Hargrave right now is playing like one of the top 5 tackles of football. I want Javon Hargrave. He's better on your team right now than Fletcher Cox, and it's not close. Fletcher Cox, when he gets double teamed, it seems like he can't really do anything. I've watched Javon Hargrave get double teamed multiple times this year and flatten both offensive line. That kid plays with a purpose. I said to you during this offseason when you guys picked him up that it was the biggest pickup y'all made in the offseason and that he was going to be a game changer defensively, and he has been. He's been your best player. It's not close. If you asked me for a 2 and a 4 next year or a 2 and a 5 this year, I would do it in a heartbeat. And Javon Hargraves is not as old as Fletcher either.
All right, so now that we got all the defense out the way, I don't feel like there's anybody else defensively that I need to have a conversation with about the Eagles.
I got one for you. Should the Eagles be looking to talk to Houston to trade for Zach Cunningham, their interior linebacker, who's 26-year-old and very talented?
No.
So you think they need to draft? I mean, Howie Roseman would never do it because he doesn't care about linebackers. But
no, I don't want them being
an instant improvement.
I don't want them being buyers at all. I don't want them taking on any salary cap. I don't want them taking on any players.
You said young talent.
Okay.
You said young talent.
When I say
26-year-old star linebacker.
When I say young talent, I'm talking like Aaron Donald. No,
bruh, Aaron Donald ain't young. He's
honestly,
just talent.
When I say young talent, I mean really the only person. I don't really think there's anybody out there that I would instantly be like, oh, go trade for him. I guess young talent.
I only bring up Cunningham because he is on the market. Houston has made that very clear. They are selling the farm at the trade.
Okay, so when I say young talent, really, if I'm Philadelphia, I'm sitting here today. If I'm not getting draft picks, I'm not trading for a single body except one person in the NFL right now.
Okay.
Except one person.
Deshaun Watson.
And
who already said he will not come to Philadelphia. So.
Correct. He already said he will not come to Philadelphia. So with that being stated, I will not touch anybody at all. I want draft picks, only draft picks.
The Zach Cunningham name I saw come out that Houston has basically publicly said that he's on the market and that they are sellers at the deadline, which you would know if you saw that they traded away Mark Ingram back to New Orleans today, and Mark Ingram was their leading rusher, accounting for more than like 60-some-odd% of their rush yards this season.
See,
they're clearly blowing it up.
With Cunningham, that he is a name of interest for non-Howie Roseman people. But you nailed it right on the head. Howie doesn't value linebackers, so we're not even going to have the conversation about Zach Cunningham because it's not going to happen. So that's why I kind of throw it out the
Who do you
window.
think's the market for a guy like that?
A guy like Zach Cunningham.
Any particular teams you see
20,
that like have that deficit at middle linebacker?
26.
Is like a Green Bay interested in a guy like that?
No.
I know they generally don't make trade moves, but
only because
I would look maybe Dallas.
Green Bay getting Jalen Smith.
Looking to get better defensively.
With Green Bay getting Jalen Smith, I feel like they solidified what they wanted to do at linebacker, and now they're done.
Okay, yeah, that is true.
Dallas.
I could see maybe a Dallas going after him to replace.
Dallas has the replacement. Dallas. This is one thing I can say. Dallas has drafted really well the last 2 years, and they have young linebackers that are very good. So I don't feel like Zach Cunningham would be an interest in. In Dallas.
I would assume that Zach Cunningham is going to be pursued by one of the better teams in the league.
A team
at the deadline here that maybe have a deficit at linebacker. Maybe a Cincinnati.
Here's
though they're usually quiet at the trade deadline too. So
here's my team. I guess you'll call them the sleeper team. Team to make the trade for Zach Cunningham. And it won't shock you when I say it, but the New England Patriots.
Okay, yeah, no, that doesn't shock me at all. They love to pick young talent off of other people.
Yeah, and they'll probably get him for a fifth.
Belichick, yeah, or something ridiculous because Belichick just does like Jedi mind tricks on opposing GMs and gets whoever he wants. He'll trade a guy away for a second-round pick and trade back for him a year later for a fifth. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
All right, so get to the offensive side real quick, and then we'll wrap it up because this has been a very long podcast. Offensive side for the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm going to ask you this question. I know where I stand at the moment. Before the injury against the Raiders, who is the Eagles' best running back? Is it Kenneth Gainwell or is it Miles Sanders?
Oh, man. I don't know. Miles. Every time Miles Sanders touches the ball, it seems to me like he gets 7 to 10 yards. He just never gets to touch the damn ball because
and every time Gainwell touches the ball, he scores.
Well, I mean, true.
That boy, he just gets it and goes.
I think the real point that needs to be made here is that both of these guys should be getting the ball more.
Yes.
I don't know what they did to Nick Sirianni. Did they like sleep with his wife or something? Like, he hates his running backs. I mean, if y'all are selling, like, there's definitely some people that would take Miles Sanders off you for, a third or fourth round pick. Since you don't want to use them, Nick, if you and Howie want to get together and just, you could just let him know that you're never going to run the ball so he could just trade Miles Sanders to somebody. I'm sure there's more than one team that would jump at the bit to go get him. So I think you got two talented running backs that are completely underused by your stooge of a head coach, Nick Sirianni. That's my take on your offense.
And my last question, would Gardner Minshew be your starting quarterback?
Yes. Minshew Mania, baby. I would let Minshew Mania run wild. I think even if you bench Jalen just for a week, just to let him know, like, dude, it's not cutting it. At this point, he, like you said earlier, I feel like he's almost regressed on a week-to-week basis. So what can it hurt at this point? They're not winning games with Jalen. I mean, if you look at his stats, you might think that he's playing better than he really is. I think he gets a lot of garbage time yards and garbage time points. Like you said earlier, the Eagles have scored a lot in garbage time in these games when they're getting blown out, early. So, with that being said, I'll ride with my boy Gardner Minshew. Let Minshew Mania run wild on Philly. The Philadelphia fans will 100% embrace it. I almost guarantee.
Yeah, well, there's a report that came out from somebody who's close to the Eagles on the inside that Jalen is just a start or two away from being removed as a starting quarterback if he continues to play the way that he's played the last 2 or 3 weeks. So that's why I'm saying, they lose to Detroit bad this week. You see Gardner Minshew the next week, and then, Gardner comes in and beats the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't think it happens that way, but, one can dream. So,
I mean, I'm gonna need to see him grow the mullet back out and get the stash going again if he becomes a starter. I mean, I just can't have this like cleaned up version of him. Doesn't do it for me. I need Uncle Rico's look-alike on the field. That's part of the Minshew charm, I believe. So, but yeah, I would think at this point it can't hurt the Eagles to try and roll with Minshew and see what you might have there. He's also a young guy, so it's not like you're benching Jalen for like a 3,900-year-old Joe Flacco. You're benching Jalen for a dude that's just about as young as he is. So it's
who
not like
possibly could be your franchise quarterback.
What happens. Yeah, it's not out of line. I mean, he looked pretty dang good with a really not good Jacksonville team. So, he might look he might look better than Jalen with this team. I mean, I don't think it hurts to see. So, hurts to see.
I see what you did there. So
Yeah,
with that,
I mean, Jalen, it hurts to